In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to name compounds that are covalent compounds, which means non-metal here. And so we're going to go through a couple of examples. So the first one, CCl4. Okay? We're going to start with our rules here. The first step is count the number of elements. I have two different elements, C and Cl. Second step says if there are more than two, follow the rule. Nope, there are not more than two, so I'm just going to skip that one. Third step says if there are only two, determine whether each is a metal or a nonmetal. Carbon is a nonmetal, and chlorine is also a nonmetal. Step 4 says if there are two nonmetals, use rules of nonmetal to nonmetal. Well, there are two nonmetals, so I'm going to use those rules, which are on the back side of your rule sheet at the very bottom. So if you'll notice, it gives the rules here, and then it also shows prefixes. And prefixes are something that you use only for nonmetal to nonmetal compounds. So what we're going to do here is we're going to name our first nonmetal and use a prefix only if there's more than one. Okay, so here we have one carbon, so we don't need a prefix. So I'm just going to write carbon. Use a prefix on the second nonmetal always. In this case, it is 4. The subscript is 4. So I'm going to put tetra, and then change the ending of the nonmetal to IDE. So I've got carbon tetrachloride, and I'm done. Let's try another one. So we have N2O. The first step is to name the first the first step is to count the number of elements. I have two different elements. Second step says if there are more than two, there are not, so I'm going to skip. Third step, I have to label whether each is a metal or a nonmetal. They're both nonmetals. Fourth step says to follow these rules. So we're going to name the first nonmetal and use a prefix only if there's more than one. Well, there is more than one nitrogen here. There are two, so my prefix is di. So I'm going to say dinitrogen. And then I always have to use a prefix on the second nonmetal. And I only have one oxygen because there's no subscript here, so it's mono. So I'm going to do monoxide. So N2O is dinitrogen monoxide. And this is how you name covalent compounds.